this right now. Look at this. You're already beginning to be able to see it. The ground is moving underneath us. We're getting these traffic lights and stuff flying around. It's still looking like very, very simplistic because we're not getting... There should be parallax between this light post, for example, and this grocery store. And, you know, a lot of these flares... They don't look right to me. Some of these, maybe it's not. It's actually not affecting the trails really that much. But again, it's hard to say without actually seeing the full thing in motion. So let's just wait for a second. I'm going to pause it while it finishes this out. All right, and we're back. So let's watch this a couple of times. Pay attention to what's happening in the frame right now. This is cool. This looks like a motion control shot already to me, and it's impressive for just adding two planes, essentially. You can get away with a lot, especially... By the way, this was shot with a Canon 10D, right? So that's a 6 megapixel camera. Imagine how good this would have looked if I had shot it on a 5D. Again, this is a long time ago. Well, not a long time ago, a couple years ago, but I just didn't have a 5D at the time. So you're getting lots of this parallax. This is warping. This parallax between this doesn't work. It's on the same plane, so we have to separate that out. We have to paint this back in. And this is when the real work kind of starts, because now we have to kind of look at the whole frame and see what it is we have to paint out, what we can leave in. Right now, I'm actually thinking that the flares, the light trails that are following from the long exposures are actually looking fine. They look fine to me, honestly, right now. We could separate them and paint in and make them float in space, but because they're going so fast, it sells itself, and I don't think we need to touch them. So let's work on some of this other major stuff. This is really bothering me. This is bothering me, and I feel like the parallax between this background and like these trees and like maybe this storefront over here needs some work. This feels okay to me, but this is what I'm talking about. You need to start kind of just looking at some of this stuff and figuring out what works for you and what doesn't, you know, because oftentimes when you're doing this stuff, there's not that much time to get things done, you know, and you have to prioritize. So let's go ahead and look at what we have to do. So let's start breaking stuff out, and because it's a still shot, you know, it's lock-off, we can break out elements individually and put them back onto cards and then use our background plate and just paint stuff in. So watch what I do and follow along with me, and it'll start to make a little bit more sense in case I'm not articulating it well enough for you right now. So let's bring in a roto right now and plug it into here. What you want to do is, the first thing I want to do is separate this guy right now, and you got to be careful, because if I'm separating this guy and painting it back into here, will it start to become disconnected from the sidewalk and here and this guy? I don't know. It's hard to tell, but it was one of the things that was sticking out to me, so let's try it and see what happens. That's what it's never a sure shot. You always just have to try different things and see how they work. And let's actually boost our viewer here a little bit, gain up, so we can see what we're doing, because it is a really dark shot. Okay, so it looks like it's a light. So we have to go around here like so. And as you're doing all this, since you're already zoomed in, pay attention to what's around here. We're going to have to paint back. I know for a fact that this street is Logan. This was shot at Echo Park and Logan, or sorry, excuse me, Sunset and Logan. And we're going to have to paint some of that stuff back in so that we get some of that movement with the parallax. Whoops. Wow. Really? Wow. Epic failure. Alright, sorry. What the hell just happened? You kidding me? Wow. Horrendous failure. Okay, I came back in here and just redid that really quickly. Nuke crashed. I don't know why. It does that sometimes. It can be frustrating. But this is done. So after you finish making a mat for that, just come into here, turn off your red, green, and blue, and now we have this element. Okay. What's going to be happening next is we have to put this onto its own card. So we're going to do a similar thing that we did up here, and let's actually start to organize this a little bit better because that stuff is actually incredibly important. I usually harp on this in tutorials, but I just want to say it again, like, you need to know where the hell things are and how they're interacting with each other, or else you turn into a big spider web and it's like a huge headache if you go in and fix anything or have to change anything later on. It's not as big of a deal for personal projects, but especially if you're doing this, like, you know, if some of you guys watching want to comp, you know, professionally, it's important. Okay, so this is going to be our light element, and it is going to go into a project 3D, and it's going to be using the same camera, of course. We never touched this camera, and we might actually want to, we could, if we wanted to, we could lock this whole thing. I mean, just don't touch it, basically. Don't do anything to this camera. This never moves. This is your projection. It's very important. If you move this, all of your everything will be fucked up. So just the only camera you ever want to touch is your animation. That's why you name them separately. So if you ever start to alter settings and you realize camera projection, undo what you just did and make sure you're using the right camera. So let's bring this right there, and we're going to make another card. It's going to feed into here, and then it's going to feed into the scene. So let's look at that card, where it is in the scene. It's probably going to be right in front of camera, so we're not getting anything yet. But once we move it back, we're going to start getting that little, see him? See that guy? Let me gain up a little, or oh, okay, right, we're in 3D. So let's see. Let's see how this looks. We're going to have a little bit of parallax. Let's go into our 2D view. Alright, so see, look at this. We're already getting a problem. We're getting a little bit of that parallax and it's moving, but it's getting a double image because guess what? There's already another version of it behind it. Because when we separate these things out, the first thing we have to do, first and most important thing, is painting it out in the background. So that's what I'm going to do right now. And, you know, it's a give or take in terms of how detailed you want to be. You heard me mentioning Logan, how that's the street and we would have to like paint it back in. Pixel perfect accuracy is not a necessity, but you know, you want to do the best job you can. So let's just look at what's saved so far, or what's so right now you can see it parallaxing a little bit. So what we have to do is paint that background piece out. So I'm just going to actually add a roto paint node. A lot of people don't like roto paint. I used to not like it. I actually hated it, but you know, you start to get used to things. So and I just made this a lot brighter. Why is that? That's strange. It's not altering anything here. I might have to do some sort of pre-mult or something with it, I don't know. Let's do this stuff though. So let's go into our Photo Paint, go into your clone, and just start painting stuff out. Oh man,